that, and what do you think of this entire situation?
Okay, I think the Niners have an incredible opportunity. Why? Because most teams pay a lot of money for their quarterback room, and they don't. Jimmy's leaving. The two quarterbacks they have make nothing. They're both on rookie contracts. This is a unique situation. And it's also a unique situation that hurts the Niners because they're both young and some unproven. But the part that helps the Niners is that nobody makes money. So you potentially can have, you've got a lot of different options. Personally, I think the 49ers still need, I think after watching this year, if I was giving any advice, I would say make sure that every quarterback on your team is somebody that you believe can win you games because they may have to. And that's reality. And especially if you're starting with Brock basically on, starting the season on IR, then you absolutely need somebody who can play. But I think I would also want somebody who could play who's young and not making a lot of money. So, I would look around the league and try to make a trade. I mean, Marcus Mariota makes a lot of sense to me.
Oh gosh, Larry,
I
please
love the
don't
way
start
Mariota
there
played
again.
against the Niners. I really do. But, if the Jets are sick of Zach Wilson, I'd give him a stop. I'd give him a second chance here. If Davis Mills is out there, I'd give him a chance. And I wouldn't be afraid to go with a rookie if you like Tanner McKee, if you like Jake Haener, if you believe in one of the quarterbacks, Clayton Tune from Houston's impressive to me. So I think that's the route I would go. I mean, the free agents, I don't know. To me, I don't know about those guys. I don't know about any of them. Beathard, I really think probably can't play. Easton Stick, I think would make Trey happy, but I'm not sure if that's the goal. Stidham, I think is good enough to play, but man, he hasn't played very much, and who knows exactly what he would look like. I don't know. I mean, I like some of those young quarterbacks around the league, and I think you got to, I'd rather kind of proceed like you don't have the answer at quarterback and go invest in a trade in a young quarterback that you like, and then if things don't work out with Brock, if things don't work out with Trey, at least you got another young quarterback who you like. To me, there's two ways to go about winning the Super Bowl. You got to have a franchise quarterback to do it. And so if you don't know if you have a franchise quarterback, you need to keep bringing in new quarterbacks until you find your franchise quarterback.
And I 100% agree with you. And that last point to me is so important, right? Because John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan take a lot of criticism. In some ways, rightfully so. In some ways, a little bit result oriented and maybe not as much evaluation of the process for, the number of times they've mishandled the quarterback situation with San Francisco. But to me, the one thing they've gotten right, and they've gotten it right more than most teams, is if you don't have that special franchise guy that you look at as, hey, he's going to uplift everybody, he's the most special guy, maybe not Mahomes, but one of those Burrow, Allen's, one of those franchise guys, you have to keep turning over every stone and cracking every window and trying to find a way to find that guy. And the 49ers, for all the mistakes they've made at the quarterback position, some that, are completely egregious, like not scouting Patrick Mahomes. And then some are a little bit overstated sometimes in terms of the mistake, right? Like they missed on Brady, but then you also understand in some ways Garoppolo was coming off of a Super Bowl and the difficulty of the dynamic to move off of him at the time too. But when you throw in all of those variables, to me, the one thing they've gotten right is that they've continued to analyze the quarterback situation and try and improve it. Now, Larry, we have some breaking news here.
Yeah.
Tom Pelissero tweeted 15 minutes ago that Brock Purdy visited Dr. Keith Meister, who's obviously, has every accolade that a medical professional can have.
Right.
And he recommended postponing the surgery because of ongoing inflammation in Purdy's elbow, per sources. They'll reconvene in early March. Now, the one thing SF Gold Rush missed in this tweet is Pelissero also noted at the end that all signs continue to point a UCL repair that would have Purdy ready for the 2023 season. So there's two bombshells to me in this. One is the delay, which means, there's something that's there that's causing this surgery to be delayed. I know everybody likes to go big deal, no big deal. It's not a right situation. I'm not going to pretend to be a medical professional and evaluate what's right or wrong with his elbow. All I know is that something is not perfect because they scheduled this surgery for tomorrow and now it's getting delayed. Now, the second part of it is the confidence factor, which kind of negates, I guess, the early part of this conversation, which to me is so important in the fact that the 49ers or whomever told Pelissero about this report told Pelissero that they believe that no, it's going to be the UCL repair still. And they have that confidence. And so that's a lot to take in, obviously, on the fly here, Larry. This is some actually very large news if we think about it in the landscape of the 49ers offseason. What are your initial thoughts here? Do you think it changes the conversation we just had? And how do you think this affects the timeline for Purdy going forward, right? Because the timeline was already a little bit suspect to me, right? End of February surgery. They were saying he was going to be ready for the start of camp, which doesn't exactly fit into the 6 months timeline because it's about 5 months. Now this surgery is going to be delayed further into March when they're going to reconvene. 6 months from there actually puts him into August. The season starts in September. So how do you think this all relates? I know I'm putting you on the spot here and asking you questions that you may not have the answer to, but Larry, talk to me.
Well, okay, a couple things. One, if you push the surgery back a few weeks, even if it's a 6-month deal, week 1 is still very much in question.
Right.
So if you push the surgery back and it still goes according to plan and it's a 6-month rehab, you're still looking at the middle of the preseason probably before he's ready to roll, and he may not be ready to roll in week 1. And that's the good scenario. The bad scenario means he may not be ready until Christmas, which you might be out of the playoff picture by then. And also you heard kind of Kyle talk about Trey. He kind of made it seem like Trey has a hard time staying healthy, which a lot of people would really aggressively push back on him and say, Kyle, you're the reason that he couldn't stay healthy. Your utilization of him got him hurt. And there are a lot of people that believe that. So I will say this, great piece today by Kyle Posey on Niners Nation's website.
Friend of the show, by the way. Good friend of the show.
Great guy. I love Kyle Posey. This is a fact that he had in one of his articles today, and he's got a bunch of stuff up. I would encourage everybody to check it out. 41 different NFL quarterbacks took at least 20% of their team's dropbacks this season. 41 different players played 20% of the time. So what does that tell you? Tells me that it's the most important position on first of all, we already know it is the most important position on the field, and defenses are smaller and faster, and pass rush is more diversified, coming from different areas, smaller guys. And the reality is that it's hard to keep a quarterback upright through the entire season. And after watching the 49ers literally run out of quarterbacks in a crucial biggest game of the year scenario, I don't want to skimp on the quarterback position. I want the 3 best either prospects or players that I can find. And I'm not worried about feelings, and I'm not worried about how it all blends or if they're giving each other side looks. I don't care. I'm not going to sit there and look. I'm going to look Trent Williams in the eye, and I'm going to say, hey, big boy, I'm going to try to get you the ring this year, and I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that happens. And everything in my power means everybody who's in our quarterback room can win us playoff games, or at least we believe in as guys that we could go with as our number one. So I think that every year in football, I think you got to change your thinking a little bit. Nothing stays the same. Everything evolves. I'd like to see Kyle go for it more on 4th down. I'd like to see the Niners steal what the Eagles did as far as their rugby scrum short yardage play. And I think what we ought to take away as our lesson to be learned here is that every quarterback on your roster may have to lead you to the Super Bowl. So get every guy on that roster to be somebody you believe in enough that you feel like if they were in there, it's all systems go. There's no reason. I'd rather just go with 2 quarterbacks and have an extra wide receiver, an extra D tackle, an extra D end, an extra corner. I'd rather use that spot on somebody else if my third guy can't win me games, or if my third guy can't even get plays called on time, or my third guy just means I automatically lose. You have to be able to win with all your quarterbacks. And that would be, I know that's not the old philosophy. The old philosophy, Vish, was, hey, man, when I talked about Brock Purdy this summer, you know, most of the response I got, hey, man, if they're down to their third quarterback, they're screwed anyway. No,
Right.
that's old school loser thinking from yesteryear. If you want to win the Super Bowl, you have to be able to win it with multiple quarterbacks, because the Niners might have been able to beat the Eagles if they had another quarterback who they really believed in. They didn't.
Right.
They lost. But it's a violent game. These guys go down. You're going to use more than one. The idea of Tom Brady went 8 years without missing a game, that ain't reality, man. That's just not the way. I don't think that's reality going forward. I think that's the aberration. That's the exception. It's not the rule. Give me 3 quarterbacks and give me a competition. And I want a competition that starts in minicamp, and I want that competition to end when the season ends. I don't want I don't want a competition for a week or a month. I want a competition the entire season. That's what everybody else on this team does. Every other guy on this team competes for their role every single week. The quarterback should not be, in a different category.
I actually agree with the premise a lot. To me, I think that with the rookie wage and how unreasonable a lot of these contracts and quarterback contract asks have become, we've gone into this situation where I think the quarterback position has basically become a value proposition. Basically, if I have Mahomes, or if I have any of the 3 guys that I would say can be as good as Mahomes on any given game, they're not Mahomes in terms of consistency, in terms of ceiling, anything like that, but they can maybe compete with Mahomes head to head, and that's who I would say: Allen, Herbert, maybe Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow. Those are the only guys I would put in that category. I feel like besides that, you kind of got to moneyball the quarterback situation a little bit. You got to find these younger, cheap guys and see what you can get out of it. Now, where I kind of push back on you, Larry, is I don't necessarily look at it as, so you think, and let me just ask you this straight up, do you think that now we've turned into a time in the NFL where there won't be these franchise quarterbacks that have repetitive starts over a large number of years? Because I've seen Kirk Cousins start year after year without getting hurt. I mean, Derek Carr has missed how many starts over the last year since he broke his leg? Patrick Mahomes, he had the 1 year of injury, year 2, but how many starts has he missed? Josh Allen hasn't missed a lot of starts since he came into the NFL. So to me, Larry, it feels like while the quarterback is getting injured more, and I agree with that, and we talked about that on your show, by the way, Krug Show, make sure you're subscribed and following. I think Larry is on his way to 15K, maybe 16K, maybe we'll just say 20K because the channel is growing so fast. But make sure you're subscribed there. But the point is, we talked about this, right? The line play, the offensive line play is terrible across the NFL, right? We always hear this with the 49ers. Oh, their offensive line sucks. Upgrade the offensive line. Well, guess what? Their offensive line is top 10 in the league. Guess what? It's top 10 in the league because the offensive line play across the NFL sucks. Offensive linemen coming into the NFL suck. And so because of that and because of how good defensive line talent is, we're seeing quarterback injuries increase. But I still think that the top guys, Larry, whether we talk about the Mahomes, the Josh Allens, the Joe Burrows, the Justin Herberts, I think these guys are going to find a way to start every Sunday because in my lifetime, through eras, I feel like I've lived through kind of different iterations of the NFL now, though I'm still very young and I've only seen so much football, especially compared to you. Not to age you, Larry, you're still looking very young.
Thank you.
I still think that the best quarterbacks in the NFL, Larry, will find ways to start game after game because that's just what they do. And we've become accustomed to that in my lifetime. And until I see the Mahomes miss multiple starts over multiple years, I'm not necessarily going to subscribe to that because to me, a trait and skill is a quarterback protecting himself. We watch Tom Brady even at 45. You want to see a quarterback protect himself? Watch Tom Brady when there's a free rusher. He deads the play. he turns his back. And we say, well, Tom Brady doesn't want to take a hit anymore. Tom Brady will tell you he doesn't want to take a hit anymore. Guess what? Tom Brady still starts 17 games every single season. So the best quarterbacks in the NFL still find a way to protect themselves, whether it's with their movement like Mahomes, whether it's with their brain like Brady. They find a way to protect themselves, Larry. And as bad as the line play is, as bad as the protection is, as good as the pass rush is, as good as these edge players and interior defensive players are, because they really are special in the NFL. Just about every team has two guys that you say, you turn on the film every week and you go, whoa, that guy can wreck the game from the defensive line. That's how good defensive line plays across the NFL. Regardless of that, I disagree with you there, Larry. I think the top quarterbacks, if you find a way to get a top quarterback, they find a way to stay healthy and play.
Well, let me ask you this. Do you own a home?
Yes.
You
do? No, I don't. My parents own a home.
Okay, they own a home.
Yes.
You understand the concept of homeowners insurance.
Yes.
I'd rather have homeowners insurance and not need it than need it and not have it. That's really all we're talking about.
That's fair enough. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
That's all we're talking about. Would you rather have insurance and not need it, or would you rather need it and not have it? It's two ways of thinking. I mean, yeah, you could save a few bucks.
Though.
You could.
Let me ask you this, though, Larry.
I might save $150 every month if I just didn't have homeowners insurance. Who's going to break into my house? I live in a safe neighborhood. Fires don't start in my house. I unplug everything every time I walk out. I have no real reason to waste $180 or $200 a month on homeowners insurance unless I need homeowners insurance. And then I'm glad that I have it. So
but
I think
how are you going to get it,
ought to be fresh in their mind that they needed quarterback insurance more than they had last year. And how disgusting was that? I mean, the 49ers got to the NFC Championship game, one game away from the pinnacle of the sport. Jed York and the DeBartolos and the Yorks have been chasing down this thing since the mid-90s, talking about 3 decades looking for that 6th ring. To me, I'm building the best and strongest football team I can.
I completely disagree with this,
I don't feel like I know what I have in Trey Lance, and I only feel marginally better what I have with Brock Purdy. So I even if these guys were healthy, I think I would want a really good third quarterback. And you know what? I would say to Brock and to Trey and to this third quarterback, ain't nothing promised, baby. This is the NFL. That stands for not for long. You can either do it or you can't, and don't be afraid to compete. If you don't want to compete, there's the door. And take it. You know what I mean? Because I'm gonna bring in the best guys possible, and I'm gonna have an open competition. And maybe I'll bring in a quarterback that's good enough to beat you out, Brock. Maybe I'll bring in a quarterback that absolutely puts you on the bench, Trey. But guess what? If you're not good enough to beat him, then you don't deserve to play. Well, this is big boy football, and I'm after the ring. So if you can hang with it, stick. If you can't, bail. But that's the way I would do it. I'm not taking any more. I'm not banking on guys who haven't been hurt, haven't been healthy to be healthy. And I'm
Larry.
not going to ignore a trend where the league is clearly, every 16 teams in the league use 3 quarterbacks this year. 41 different quarterbacks took 20% of the snaps. That's a boatload of quarterbacks. I'm not getting caught short there again.
Here's where I disagree, though. I agree with your last point, right?
I don't care about feelings.
I agree with your last point. You don't care about feelings. We got to find the best guy there that no matter what goes on this season, we got to find a way to win the Super Bowl. And now, while I think the Niners' resources are completely limited kind of in that area to find something that can walk in and be better than Trey Lance or Brock Purdy, I would say probably not. I do think they have the ultimate quarterback deodorant in Shanahan that can make a lot of guys who are maybe not so good and not good look a lot better than they are. Just the way the offense is, the way how good he is, and all of that. Now, where I disagree with your homeowner's insurance is I would say, Larry, the San Francisco 49ers bought some expensive owner's insurance last year for Trey Lance, named Jimmy Garoppolo.
And that
homeowner's insurance, they needed it. It didn't work. And then they had 7th-round pick Brock Purdy.
It did work. They went to the playoffs.
He got hurt too, though. The homeowner's insurance got hurt too.
Yeah, but you qualified for the playoffs, Fish.
7th-round pick Brock Purdy, Larry, fell out of heaven, and nobody would expect a 7th-round pick to play the way Brock Purdy played, let alone a rookie quarterback. and he was outstanding and kind of bailed out their season. I don't know where we get to the point, Larry, where if we're talking about three quarterbacks, having three good quarterbacks is just hard. And that's where I kind of push back on this entire argument, because I'm unable to comprehend where the 49ers are going to find this third quarterback or how they're going to acquire him. I don't know whether it's money. I don't know where the picks are. I don't know how they're going to find him. If you're going to say draft another guy at the end of the draft, Larry, I would make the argument that you don't draft a lot of guys at the end of the draft that turn into Brock Purdy year one is starting. I say absolutely not. If we're going to talk about Brock Purdy and talk about how well he played, we can't just discredit him then by saying, well, if you draft Jake Haener, you draft this guy, he's going to turn into Brock Purdy, because that's simply not true. Not a lot of seventh round picks, let alone rookie quarterbacks, walk in and do what Brock Purdy did. So if we're going to talk about three quarterbacks, four quarterbacks, five quarterbacks deep, while I agree with you, Larry, find a way to get it competitive, compete. It's not about feelings. It's not about acquirance. It's not about opportunity cost. It's about making sure that you have the best guy playing quarterback for you week to week. We agree there. I'm unable to wrap my head around kind of where the 49ers can turn at this point, right? To find
But I mean,
something
let's
that
go
makes
back to
sense.
Garoppolo for
And
a second. He
okay,
started 10 games. They
right.
won 7 of those 10 games.
Yeah.
They wouldn't have. He started more games than the other two guys started combined. And he won 70. The team won 70% of those games. They don't go to the playoffs without Jimmy G. I mean, bringing back Jimmy G last year was a stroke of brilliance.
I agree with you.
The only thing that was more brilliant was drafting Brock in the draft, right? But I mean, because I mean, when you factor in the cost, but you know, having Jimmy there was one of the best moves they made.
I agree with that.
And they wouldn't even been in the playoffs if they didn't have Jimmy G. Probably. I mean, maybe Brock could have stepped in early, but who knows if he would have lasted. You know, maybe he gets knocked out somewhere along the line. So he did kind of play some of his worst football at the end. Maybe he wore out a little bit. You know, maybe Greg Cosell feels like, you know, he left some throws out there towards the end of the year. Maybe there was mental and physical fatigue by the end of the year. I'm just saying that I'm Trey may be a star, maybe a bust. Brock may be a star. He may be a backup.
True.
I think we can say that. I think those are both true statements.
I agree.
And as far as the third guy, I'd like a guy who might be I'd like another Brock Purdy. He might be a star. He might be a backup.
Okay.
What I don't want is I want to bring in somebody who might be a star, but who I don't think is going to be a bust. I don't want to bring in a bust, but I want to bring in somebody I think has high upside potential. Especially because you've kind of already demonstrated how the Niners get in this peach of a position by drafting Brock Purdy in the 7th round. It was probably the best pick of any team in the entire draft. They got Brock Purdy, a starting quarterback, and they got him in the 7th round. So to me, do that again. You've shown the ability to handicap the quarterback market as well or better than others. Do it again. Go find out who you can trade for or who you can sign or who you can draft and go get the best guy you can get. I mean, it's as simple as that. I think Trubisky is going to be available. I think Mariota could be available. I think there's a chance Zach Wilson could be available. I mean, I really, and then the free agent market has some older guys. It has some younger guys that look okay. It's not great. And then the quarterback rookie market's kind of speculative. But, you know, I definitely want at times during this regime, we've seen them say, well, we're going to go for this quarterback. And the idea like coming in, Hoyer, Beathard, that these guys were going to be backups. No more backups. Do not draft backups. Do not sign backups. Do not trade for backups. Trade for starters, draft starters, sign starters. And if they wind up backing up, they wind up backing up. That's the way I look at it.